What if you could build your own home? Not a cramped apartment, not a cookie-cutter subdivision box, but a sleek, minimalist barndominium on a narrow lot, with your own detached garage for a fraction of what your neighbors paid for their mortgage. I know, that sounds like a fantasy, but here in 2026, with traditional stick-built homes now averaging well over $400,000, more and more people are running the real numbers on DIY barndominiums, and what they're finding is turning heads. A narrow lot, a steel kit, a detached garage, a minimalist interior, total cost that actually makes sense. In this video, I'm going to walk you through every single cost layer of this build, from the steel shell kit to the foundation, the utilities, the interior, and that detached garage, with honest 2026 numbers, not fantasy figures from a blog written in 2021. And here's what I want you to stick around for. Near the end of this video, I'm going to break down the 3 biggest money traps that kill barndominium budgets. Mistakes that could cost you $20,000 to $50,000 if you do not know about them before you break ground. So stay with me. Before we dive in, if you're new here, I cover tiny homes, alternative builds, and real construction costs with real numbers. Hit subscribe and the notification bell so you do not miss our next video. Now let's get into it. Let's set the stage first, because the word barndominium means different things to different people. For this build, we're talking about a single-story or simple 2-story minimalist barndo, somewhere between 1,200 and 1,600 square feet, designed specifically for a narrow lot. Think a footprint of around 24 by 50 feet, or 28 by 44 feet. Long, lean, and efficient. The minimalist style we are targeting in 2026 is exactly what it sounds like. Flat or single-slope shed roofs, simple gray or black metal exterior panels, full-wall windows on the rear elevation for natural light, open concept interior with polished concrete floors, exposed steel beams, and zero wasted hallway space. No rooms that only exist to connect other rooms. These homes are built around steel. Either a pre-engineered red iron kit for wide-span open interiors, or cold-formed steel, which is better suited to smaller footprints and is more DIY friendly because the panels arrive pre-labeled and pre-drilled for plumbing and electrical runs. Why steel over wood? In 2026, that question almost answers itself. Wood is flammable and susceptible to catastrophic loss, and in many 2026 markets, securing affordable insurance for new wood frame builds has become a primary hurdle for buyers. Steel, by contrast, is manufactured to the millimeter, stays plumb for the life of the structure, and is essential for the modern, minimalist interior finishes that are popular right now. Here is something your insurance agent may not tell you until after you sign. In 2026, steel barndominiums in fire-prone or high-wind zones are qualifying for significant discounts under what insurers are now calling Firewise certification programs. If you are building in a wildfire corridor, a coastal wind zone, or a tornado-prone region, the steel barndo is not just a lifestyle choice. It is a financial one. Some homeowners are reporting insurance premiums 20 to 35% lower than comparable wood frame homes. That is real money over a 30-year ownership period. Steel also resists pests, rot, and fire. And for a narrow lot where the building footprint is tight and every wall has to work hard, the clear span capability of steel, meaning no load-bearing interior walls, is a massive design advantage. Alright, let's start with the biggest line item that most people get confused about, the kit itself. A materials-only shell kit costs roughly $20 to $35 per square foot in 2026 pricing, which means a 2,000 square foot building runs approximately $40,000 to $70,000. But that buys only the steel structure, and this distinction is the single largest source of confusion for first-time buyers. For our narrow lot minimalist barndo, let's say 1,300 square feet, that shell kit is going to run you roughly $26,000 to $45,000 depending on the kit type and who manufactures it. Now here is where the kit type really matters for a DIY. There are currently 3 main kit types: red iron steel kits, cold formed steel kits, and SIP panel kits. Red iron kits require cutting and welding on site. That is a professional crew job. Cold formed steel kits include the shell, interior framing, siding, roofing, windows, and exterior doors, and the panels arrive pre-labeled and pre-drilled for electrical and plumbing runs. Most people with general construction knowledge can assemble them. If you're going full DIY on a narrow lot build, cold form steel is your best friend. SIP kits are also excellent for energy efficiency, but require specialized installation skills. Red iron is for when you want a massive clear span open bay and you have a welding crew on hand. For our build, we are targeting a CFS kit, and a realistic 1,300 square foot kit in 2026 will run approximately $28,000 to $38,000 for the shell and framing. That is before foundation, interior finish, or anything else. One more critical point on kits. In 2026, freight costs have stabilized, but remain high. If your kit manufacturer is across the country, your savings might be swallowed by the trucking company. Always look for a manufacturer within a 500-mile radius of your build site. A cross-country freight bill on a steel kit can add $4,000 to $8,000 to your total. That is not a rounding error. The foundation on a narrow lot is simple in concept, but critical in execution. Barndominiums almost universally use a concrete slab, and for our 1,300 square foot footprint, you are looking at a slab that is roughly 28 by 46 feet. A land survey costs $200 to $1,200 depending on the terrain. Clearing land to build costs $1,200 to $8,000 depending on obstacles. For a narrow urban or semi-rural lot that is already cleared, you may be on the low end of that range. For the concrete slab itself, in 2026, you should expect to pay $5.50 to $9 per square foot for a basic slab, including materials and labor. For a 1,300 square foot footprint, that is roughly $7,000 to $12,000 for the slab. Here is a narrow lot specific detail most scripts skip over. If your lot has limited driveway access and a standard concrete mixer cannot back in close enough, expect a pump truck surcharge of $500 to $1,000 on top of the base slab cost. It is a small number, but it catches people off guard. Factor it in from the start. Building permits run $500 to $2,000. And yes, you need them. Do not skip this step. A barndominium without a permit is an uninsurable, unfinanceable headache that will follow you every time you try to sell or refinance. This is where budgets quietly explode, and it is where I want you to pay close attention. Adding utilities to a vacant lot costs $9,000 to $34,500 or more, depending on local services available. The range is that wide because your lot's proximity to existing infrastructure makes an enormous difference. If your building site is more than 200 feet from the nearest power pole, the utility company might charge you $15 to $30 per linear foot to run lines. Always ensure your land is perked, tested for drainage, before buying. A standard septic system might cost $8,000, but an engineered system for poor soil can easily cost $25,000. This is why choosing a build-ready lot with utilities already at the road is such a critical budget decision. A cheap lot that needs $30,000 in utility work is not actually a cheap lot. Now here is a 2026 specific tip that costs almost nothing now, but saves you real money later. When you're already trenching for utility lines to the main structure, run a 240-volt conduit out to that detached garage at the same time. EV charging prep, a dedicated 240V circuit in the garage, costs roughly $300 to $500 to add during initial trenching. If you wait and come back later, that same run can cost $2,000 to $3,500 because you are digging up finished landscaping and driveway. It is the cheapest upgrade on this entire project, and in 2026 is no longer optional for resale value. For a narrow urban infill lot or a semi-rural property with existing utility access, a realistic utility hookup budget in 2026 is $10,000 to $18,000. This covers electrical service, water and sewer or septic, and basic rough-in plumbing. Here is the truth that nobody on Instagram tells you about barndominiums. The shell and structure account for roughly 25% of the total cost, while insulation, drywall, flooring, plumbing, HVAC, and fixtures account for the remaining 75%. Two owners building identical steel shells could spend $120,000 or $360,000, depending entirely on their finish choices. This is the most important sentence in this entire video. The shell is 25%. The interior is 75%. Most people budget for the box and forget they still have to fill it. For a minimalist build, the good news is that the aesthetic actually aligns with keeping costs down. Polished concrete floors are cheaper than tile or hardwood. Exposed steel beams cost nothing extra because they are already there. Open concept layouts minimize drywall and trim. Simple gray walls with black hardware are both budget-friendly and exactly on trend in 2026. Now, insulation. On a steel building, this is non-negotiable. Steel conducts heat and cold aggressively, and an under-insulated barn door will punish you with energy bills every single month. The traditional approach is closed-cell spray foam, which creates an excellent air and vapor barrier. But in 2026, the smarter budget move is what the industry calls flash and batt. You spray a thin flash coat of closed-cell foam, typically 1 to 2 inches, directly onto the steel framing to create the critical air seal and vapor barrier, and then you fill the remaining cavity with rock wool or fiberglass batt insulation. The result is nearly the same thermal performance as full spray foam, but you cut your insulation costs significantly. For a 1,300 square foot barn door, full closed-cell spray foam might run $6,000 to $9,000. Flash and batt for the same structure typically runs $3,500 to $5,500. That is $2,500 to $3,500 back in your pocket, with no meaningful performance trade-off. Here is a realistic interior breakdown for our 1,300 square foot minimalist narrow barn door in 2026. Flash and batt insulation, $3,500 to $5,500. Drywall, mud, tape, and paint, $4,000 to $8,000 DIY assisted. Polished concrete floors, grind and seal the existing slab, $1,500 to $3,000. Kitchen cabinetry and countertops, semi-custom or IKEA, $5,000 to $12,000. Plumbing fixtures and rough-in, $6,000 to $14,000. HVAC using a mini-split system for 1,300 square feet, $4,000 to $7,000. Electrical rough-in and panel, $6,000 to $10,000. Windows and exterior doors if not included in kit, $4,000 to $9,000. Bathroom tile, vanities, and fixtures, $3,000 to $7,000. Total realistic interior finish budget for a minimalist 1,300 square foot barn door, $37,000 to $68,500. The lower end is very achievable if you are doing significant DIY labor on painting, floor sealing, and cabinetry installation yourself. Now for the part that makes this property a complete, functional homestead, the detached garage, on a narrow lot. A detached garage typically goes behind the main structure or off to one side with a shared side driveway. The most cost-efficient choice for a minimalist barndominium property is a simple 20 by 24 two-car garage with metal siding to match the barn door, creating a cohesive aesthetic and keeping material costs consistent. In 2026, building a detached garage typically costs about 10 to 20% more than building an attached one, since it requires a full foundation for exterior walls and separate utility runs. Detached garages usually cost $40 to $70 per square foot for standard builds, and the national average to build a detached garage in 2026 ranges from $45 to $75 per square foot, depending on materials, finishes, and region. Building a detached garage costs around $26,400, with prices often ranging from $19,200 to $33,600. Here is something that is genuinely exciting about the narrow lot angle in 2026. A lot of builders are treating the detached garage as a house hack, building it with a simple loft or a finished back room from day one, so it can later be converted into an ADU, a rental unit, or a home office. Because you are already running utilities out to the garage during the initial trenching, the marginal cost of roughing in a bathroom and a 240V panel is small. You are essentially building future income potential into your property from the start. Building a detached garage on your own puts materials between $5,000 and $25,000 on your ledger. Because labor adds roughly 60% to the total, handling tasks like painting can shave thousands off the final bill. Be smart about what you DIY though. Framing, electrical, and foundation work all have code compliance requirements. DIY painting, shelving, and interior finishing are great candidates. DIY electrical panel work is not worth the risk or the potential inspection failure. For our build budget, we are targeting a 480 square foot 2-car detached garage with a concrete slab, metal exterior matching the barn door, one standard garage door, basic electrical, including that 240V Varetti circuit, and side entry door. Realistic 2026 total, $22,000 to $30,000 with strategic DIY on the finish work. I promised you the 3 biggest budget killers. Here they are. Do not skip this section. Money trap number 1, the cheap land illusion. In 2026, the cost of infrastructure is at an all-time high. Cheap land often comes with a hidden tax. If your building site is more than 200 feet from the nearest power pole, the utility company might charge $15 to $30 per linear foot to run lines. An engineered septic system for poor soil can easily cost $25,000. Always buy build-ready land with utilities at the road, even if it costs $15,000 more upfront. You will almost always save money overall. Money trap number 2, the custom blueprint trap. In 2026, a bespoke architect can quote you $4,500 to $8,000 for fully custom blueprints. But most of your needs can be met by high-quality stock plans that have already been vetted for structural integrity and code compliance, typically costing $1,200 to $2,000. Buy a stock narrow-lot barnominium plan and hire a local drafter to make minor adjustments. You pocket $3,000 to $6,000 on day 1 before a single piece of steel is ordered. Money trap number 3, skipping the general contractor fee without actually managing the project. When you hire a general contractor, you are paying a management fee that typically ranges from 10 to 20% of the total project cost. On a $250,000 barnominium build, a GC will take $25,000 to $50,000 as their profit and overhead. The smart move is to act as your own GC, which means you're the project manager, not the person with the hammer. You hire and schedule your own subcontractors. The trap? Deciding to be your own GC and then not actually managing the project tightly. Scheduling gaps, wrong material orders, and subcontractor conflicts will eat that entire savings fast if you are not organized and on site consistently. Alright, let's put the whole picture together. Here is the complete honest 2026 cost estimate for a DIY narrow lot minimalist barndominium, approximately 1,300 square feet, with a detached 2-car garage. Floor plans, stock with minor modifications, $1,500 to $2,500. Site prep, survey, and clearing, $2,000 to $8,000. Concrete slab foundation for barn door, $7,000 to $12,000. Steel CFS kit including shell, framing, siding, roof, windows, and exterior doors, $28,000 to $40,000. Permits, $500 to $2,000. Utility hookups covering electrical, water, sewer or septic, and EV conduit prep, $10,000 to $18,000. Flash and Batt insulation, $3,500 to $5,500. Interior finish covering HVAC, electrical, plumbing, drywall, floors, kitchen, and baths, $37,000 to $68,500. Detached 2-car garage with slab, metal exterior, door, and electrical, $22,000 to $30,000. Contingency fund of 10 to 15%, non-negotiable, $11,000 to $18,000. Total realistic range, $122,500 to $204,500. The wide range is real. The lower end assumes significant DIY labor on interior finishing, a build-ready lot with utilities at the road, a stock floor plan, and a CFS kit source from a manufacturer within 500 miles. The upper end assumes more professional labor, rural land requiring utility runs, and upgraded finishes throughout. A finished barnominium costs $65 to $160 per square foot for standard builds in 2026, with interior finishing, not the metal shell, driving the final price. Our 1,300 square foot build at the lower end of our range lands around $94 per square foot, including the garage. That is a genuinely competitive number for 2026. For comparison, While new traditional houses cost $158,000 to $478,000, a full barndominium build typically ranges from $112,800 to $504,000, depending on square footage, location, and interior finishes. Our narrow lot minimalist target sits comfortably in the lower third of that range. So there it is, the real, honest cost of a DIY narrow lot minimalist tiny barndominium with a detached garage in 2026. Not the fantasy number, not the shell-only number that gets thrown around to make barndominiums look impossibly cheap. The real, complete number, from the first shovel to the last coat of paint. If you want to go deeper on any of these topics, like which CFS kit manufacturers to look at, how to find narrow lot barndo floor plans, or how to act as your own GC without losing your mind, drop a comment below and let me know which video to make next. If this video helped you, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are trying to build smart and build honestly. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. I will see you in the next one.